When Corporal Mason Hart woke up in the medical bay aboard the USS Nomad, the first thing he saw was a pair of vertical golden eyes watching him with quiet intensity. The pain in his side from the plasma shrapnel was dull now, numbed by a cocktail of nanobots and pain suppressants. He blinked against the sterile light, trying to remember where he was, and more importantly, who was staring at him like that. She was tall, with pale lavender skin and a cascade of jet-black braids pinned back beneath a sanitation cap. Her uniform was navy with teal trim, the symbol of the Terran Coalition Medical Division embroidered just above her heart. "You are awake," she said, her voice musical and soft, though the translator in his neural implant still gave it a slight echo. "Yeah, apparently. I am Rilka, your attending nurse. You sustained a high-level abdominal injury during the Serati ambush. 40% survival odds. You are surprisingly intact." He groaned. "Only 40%. I've had worse odds playing poker." Rilka blinked. Then she smiled. He hadn't been assigned to Nomad for long. A reconnaissance specialist transferred in after the fiasco on Venker 4. Mason barely had time to adjust to the joint species environment before being blasted halfway to death on a mining moon. And now, it seemed, he had an alien nurse assigned to him. Not that he minded. Rilka had a calm presence, graceful, careful hands, and she made the medbay feel less sterile. Over the next few days, Mason's recovery was more mental than physical. The nanobots handled the damage, but Rilka's company helped with the dreams, the kind where he was still burning, still crawling through rubble. She was direct but kind, and she had a wry sense of humor he quickly learned to appreciate. On the 6th day, she caught him trying to get out of bed. "Mason Hart," she said, arms folded across her chest. "Your muscle regrowth is only at 63%. If you rupture again, I will be forced to resedate you. Come on, Ril. I just want to stretch my legs. You want to fall over and tear your sutures. Fascinating desire." He snorted. "Bossy." She tilted her head. "You would prefer neglect." He smirked. "No. Just used to softer handling. Then adjust." She leaned over and, with practiced ease, plucked the remote from his hand and reactivated the bed restraints. "There." He gave a defeated sigh and mumbled jokingly, "Yes, dear." Rilka blinked, and then smiled. "You accept?" she asked, her voice lighter than usual. Mason blinked. "Wait, what? You consent to pairing?" "What? No, I mean, I was kidding." She looked genuinely amused, even pleased. Your tone was ambiguous. But the phrase, "yes, dear," is culturally interpreted as intimate submission in your species, is it not? I mean technically, but I understand. Humor as misdirection. Still, you have said the words. And we Zelanthi consider spoken intent binding. Oh no. She tapped her datapad with elegant fingers. "Log updated. You are now designated as provisional mate. Congratulations." Middle. What began as a harmless joke quickly evolved into the most awkward experience of Mason's career. The Nomad's medical AI now addressed him as Mate Hart. His meals in the medbay were upgraded to a high-nutrient bonding partner menu. Rilka explained this meant shared fortification portions, which came with double protein and a suspicious amount of root vegetables. Then came the visits from her co-workers. "You are the one Rilka selected?" asked a four-eyed surgeon, peering at Mason like he was a lab rat. "Curious. I did not think humans were her type. Too squishy." "Thanks," Mason muttered, trying to eat a protein wrap without eye contact. Rilka stood behind him, ever composed. "He is malleable, adaptable, resilient. Traits I value." "You really meant it." Mason asked her later, lowering his voice when the others were gone. She sat beside his bed, scanning his vitals, but her golden eyes met his. We do not joke about mating. But I recognized your intent as humorous. Still, the words were said. You're not seriously going to hold me to that. Only if you choose to reaffirm them. And if I don't, you remain under medical supervision. Nothing changes. You heal. That should have been a relief. But instead, something about her disappointment, mild and hidden though it was, made his gut twist. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. You didn't, she said. I am Xanthe. We do not bond lightly. But we also do not ignore kindness. You've been gentle. Mason didn't know what to say to that. He had always treated her with respect. But now that he thought about it, he realized he liked the time they spent together. Her dry remarks. The careful way she tucked in his blankets. The night she sat beside him during a thunderous meteor storm outside the viewports, her shoulder almost, but not quite, touching his. The joke had stopped being funny. When he was finally cleared for release, Mason hesitated before stepping out of the medbay. So, this is it, he asked. Rilka stood at the console. Your medical status is stable. You're free to return to duty. But... She turned, folding her arms. You are still listed as provisional mate. If that distresses you, I will make the necessary update. He looked at her for a long moment. What if it doesn't distress me? She blinked. I mean, what if I said it again? Not as a joke. Then I would consider the bond confirmed, she said quietly. Well then. He cleared his throat, exaggerated a sigh, and stepped closer. Yes, dear. This time, her eyes gleamed with something between delight and exasperation. I will inform the quartermaster to move your belongings, she said calmly. Bonded pairs are assigned cohabitation quarters. Ending. Living with Rilka was nothing like Mason had imagined. For starters, she insisted on rigid cleaning schedules and performed regular bioscans of him while he slept. Preventative, she claimed. She also preferred silence during meals unless sharing nutrient data or analysis of the day's tasks. And yet she surprised him constantly. One evening, during a gravity lull in the ship's rotation cycle, she surprised him by turning on soft luminescent orbs and offering him her hand to float together in the airlock observatory. They hovered in microgravity, watching stars drift like ghosts beyond the glass. You're not what I expected, Mason said. Neither are you. You don't regret this. Regret? She tilted her head. You have shown me trust, humor, and curiosity. These are sacred traits. You treat me as more than my function. He drifted closer. You're a lot more than your function, Ril. Her pupils widened, her breath slowed. Then say it again. He leaned in and whispered, smiling. Yes, dear. She kissed him. Not clumsy. Not rushed. A practiced gesture from a species that did not touch lightly. It was gentle, reverent, and carried the weight of two cultures finding meaning in shared affection. The next morning, everyone on the ship knew. Apparently, the medical AI had announced over the ship's intercom. Bonding between Nurse Rilka and Corporal Mason Hart is now official. Celebration rations will be distributed at 1,800 ship time. Mason wanted to die of embarrassment. Rilka merely held his hand in public, proud and composed. Weeks passed, then months. The war dragged on. But Mason found that healing beside Rilka wasn't just about recovery. It was transformation. He became the liaison officer for human Xanthe integration.